word investment is becoming so overly popular, whether you're talking about millennials, you're talking about Gen Zs, you're talking about even old people. So why do you think investments have become so popular at this point of time, especially in India?
Investment is the buzzword today. Like everybody in every social meeting, circle, wherever you go, you just talk about, where are you investing, what are you doing, how much is your returns, and all related to this.
What is an SIP? In a very, very simplistic fashion, I just want you to tell to the viewers, to the advice, to the people all around that what is an SIP and what is SIP bringing onto their table if they are actually investing into this buzzword known as SIP, which is getting so much traction now.
Important as well as very, very topical, because SIP is something which is like a new gold mine for Indians.
Yeah.
When you come into a mutual fund foray, you see there are so many funds, so many schemes, so many types, There is global, there is domestic, there is active, there is passive, there is thematic, sectoral, ELSS.
Wow.
So there is so many of them, which today if you were to think and do it on your own, you will probably fail at this.
How do you think that there has been a psychological shift in the domain of investments?
When you see the psychological shift, of course, there is a huge psychological shift that has happened, And the first thing that you can pinpoint it as people have become more risk taker.
Yeah.
So when I said, about my parents, about growing up, so what was the basic psychology that we have to preserve? Do you know SIPs are coming from ritual places? So the most retail parts of India, people sitting in Leh Ladakh where there is no other connectivity, they are putting in SIPs to their very isolated SBI bank branch and all. People in Andaman Nicobar, again they are cut off. In Lakshadweep, they don't have any physical means, they are doing online.
Ma'am, it's a pleasure to see you today. We have with us Indrani, who is taking care of Edelweiss. And she will be discussing or she will be decoding with us a lot of things which primarily you as an investor would find it so attractive to understand that it will really help you out in simplifying what Indian capital markets are. How should an investment take place? Is it really important to have SIPs? Or by the way, in fact, I should say what SIPs are all about. Let's hear all these things from an expert's, or I should say from the horse's mouth, and you will get to know a lot of things from her views or from her opinions. So ma'am, welcome to our show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me over.
Ma'am, we had been longing to have the show for a long period of time, and finally, we have got an opportunity. In fact, MoneyTree Partners have got an opportunity today to host you and to hear a lot from you basically, which will be very helpful for our viewers, because what happens many a times, when something is coming from an expert's mouth or your opinions, it matters a lot, because you are so widespread globally that people hear you, people follow you, people appreciate what you say, and of course your experience and your knowledge really matters for the people who are investing. In fact, as an advisor, I would say one thing, that today people are investing their entire life savings just on your opinions or on your advice. So see how important you are for the investors today. Your face is really making their careers.
Okay, now while it's sounding very good, it's also sounding quite scary. So let's have some interesting conversations.
Surely, ma'am. Yeah. So guys, there had been lot of questions which come in front of me. So I would be posing those questions, which I have gathered from the people all across the globe. So I mean, after jotting them down, I have pinned them and I'll be putting forward in front of Indrani, and let's see how does she react to those questions, because ultimately those questions will really help you out in giving you right sort of advice. So ma'am, first question, why do you think the word investment is becoming so overly popular, whether you're talking about millennials, you're talking about Gen Zs, you're talking about even old people? Now even an 80 years old people, I get a lot of calls from them that please invest my money. I want that money to grow and all that stuff. So why do you think investments have become so popular at this point of time, especially in India?
Brilliant question, because you see, investment is the buzzword today. Like everybody in every social meeting, circle, wherever you go, you just talk about, where are you investing, what are you doing, how much is your returns, and all related to this. But to understand, the investment frame, like how it is changing or why it has changed, it is basically to do with what we were earlier and where we are right now. So you see, when I look at my parents, the simple things, like everybody grows up and they see how their parents have invested with their own money. You see that they have been more closed when it came to investment. It was not a spoken about word. Only one person would do it at some point in time. And then, it would be more like, okay, fine, there is something kept for us. That was all about investments, right? But what has happened over the years, I think post our independence and all, actually India has gone through a transformational shift. And this started with our liberalization in 1991. Because then, people started understanding, oh, the world is not this, the world is actually opening up, it's bigger. There are more things for us. And then with a series of, we had 2000, the .com. The technology boom. Then post that, markets rallied. Of course, we had few crashes during the way, people became more cautious. But what had happened, it has opened the capital markets to a normal Indian investor. And with that, mutual funds came into the foray and people started getting more and more aware, okay, fine, these are the places where, you don't need to be bound by your bank deposits or your, gold investments or maybe a policy here and there, but you have an entire domain world waiting for you to make returns.
Correct.
And in the same period of time, what happened from a world of scarcity, see, we all were living in that scarcity in our childhood, our parents were, there was this abundance because people started earning better, they were investing, they were having more surplus.
Correct.
So once they had more surplus, the thing came that now how do I grow? Life expectancy has gone up, my aspirations have gone up, and others are also benefiting because of this, and I should also benefit. So somewhere through that, what we saw, there was this financial literacy which came up, there was this growing wealth that was supporting this move, and finally the technology. You cannot deny, technology has really opened another phase for us. So there is, from physical to online, at the click of a button, you're holding a phone. I mean, at this point, while talking to me, you can do a transaction. Markets are down today, right? You can always buy. So it is as simple as that, and it has reached to such an extent where millennials, Gen Z, everyone today is now having the knowledge, the expertise and the access. And I can't say enough, but the role of mutual fund distributors have also played a very, very big role here. And AMFI with the mutual fund Sahi Hai, the investments have all taken a big, big priority in everyone's life.
Wow, so beautifully ma'am has today explained us, why investment is the buzzword today and how people are actually coming up into this entire rut of investments. And see, the beauty is that the whole idea of investment is not only entangled to one set of people. Just as ma'am really said that, whether it's Gen Zs, whether it's millennials, whether it is even old age, I mean, everybody, people of different walks of life, they're all coming together and they're just investing their money because, just as she said, technology is playing an important role, social media is playing an important role, people's knowledge and abundance of wealth which is now available has literally played a very, very crucial role, because of which the term called investments have become so overly popular that it has become literally a buzzword today. Ma'am, let's dive deep into another topic.
Sure.
How do you think that there has been a psychological shift in the domain of investments, what your parents or grandparents used to do vis-a-vis now? Why, what kind of psychological shifts have taken place and why they have taken place? I literally want you to tell these things to the investors, because why? This question is coming from the source, because at one point of time people used to invest in some sort of asset classes which now are fading away. But that psychology or that mindset is still there. So they find sometimes perplexed, oh, why not a asset class? It was so overly prevalent in 1980s and 1990s, and people have not thought about investing into capital markets. Are they really good? Are they really accurate? Will they really give you good returns? So I want Indrani to answer these questions for the viewers, ma'am. How would you answer this, please?
Okay. See, what I see when you see the psychological shift, of course, there is a huge psychological shift
Yes.
that has happened, And the first thing that you can pinpoint it as people have become more risk taker.
Yeah.
So when I said, about my parents, about growing up, so what was the basic psychology that we have to preserve?
Yeah.
Our capital is not in abundance. Whatever we get, we have to preserve so that I can have my rainy days.
Yeah.
So the rainy days can be basically financed by this sort of capital that I'm going to preserve.
Yeah.
Never before people thought of making money to reach a goal, to do something of their aspiration, nothing like that.
Yeah.
It was just to take care of themselves
Yeah.
in their old age time. So that was a psychology. Now because the way things have evolved, what has happened is that you mentioned Gen Zs and all. So they have come into the foray and they have realized that, hey, you don't need to be so conservative.
Yeah.
You are today, you have built your career, you have a certain lifestyle, you are earning certain things.
Correct.
And we need to multiply this because there is so much things there are waiting for us in the world. We need to go here, we need to travel here, we need to dine here, we need to buy this, buy that. So all that thing, the Gen Z feels, yes, it is achievable.
Yeah.
So that is where the Gen Zs come up, and there is this break of that shackles from the erstwhile generation to this generation. Now the older generation, let's say my dad today, he is much more open now to investing in stock market. So what used to be his earlier belief that you only burn money in stock markets because if you put money you will never get it back. Today he says, Acha, you tell me which fund I should put so that my money, I have this 10 lakh rupees, I want that 10 lakh to be 15
growing,
lakhs, and I want to give it to you only, but just ensure that you put it in the right place in the market. So how conversations are changing in spite of having his entire life thinking that he need to preserve the capital, and that is happening in entire, whether you talk it in the middle class, HNI and ultra HNI. In fact, the other day, my driver comes up to me and he says, ma'am, my all other friends who are also drivers, they are investing through Grow and Zerodha, but I don't think I have done it. I think I'm missing out. So this is something coming out from a person, who probably 10 years back also didn't know that a financial market exists. For them, getting the money, spending is what they used to do. And also, another psychological shift that has happened is that erstwhile, what happened, my father would take the decision of the house, right? And at a particular age and stage, not that he starts working and doing. But today, you see that people at 20 years, they are investing money. They go, they join a job. In the first month's salary, they say, okay, I'm going to spend this much, I'm going to do my SIP through this month, from this month itself. So where the confidence is coming, the fact that they're not afraid of risk. They know that they are for the long term. And in long term, how our markets have behaved. Our markets over the years, you take our markets 10 years, 15 years, we have got a compounded annualized growth rate of more than 15%. You take shorter periods, we have had a bumper also. In that. So people want to encash on that. People don't want to stay within a 6% return, 7% return. They want to they know that today, there is an availability and why not go for it. So that mind shift has happened big time. And this was aided by all this, how people have become aware and access and markets performing, the distributors' contribution, all in a way, in a step-by-step manner, has given the psychological transition.
Wow. So beautifully explained. And to all the viewers and investors, it's very, very important to understand this psychological shift has primarily come because of the rising aspirational middle class, just as what Indrani has rightly said. And because people are not only entangled within that 6% of returns through the fixed instruments, which they used to get at one point of time, that now they are entering into the capital markets where they can see good returns coming out from their portfolios because they are not for a short period of time, they are here for a longer period of time to reap the benefits which the capital markets generally brings with it. So with this, ma'am, I really want one more questions and one more question to be put in front of you. Why do you think Indian markets are performing so well? And this question is very important because the people have different sort of emotions associated to these questions. Somebody think it's so logical. Why should India perform? Because of the consumption story, because of A, B, C. Somebody thinks it as a euphoria, somebody thinks it's for a short period of time. But investors, it's very important because this question is the underlining feature. Why do people invest in India? So let's hear it from Indrani's mouth that why is India gaining such a big traction all across the globe, where people from different walks of life, they are coming together and investing their money in the Indian markets. Ma'am, please.
Yeah. So in one word, I think it is Tina. It's a Tina effect. There is no other alternative. There is no alternative to Indian markets because you see globally today, India is in a very, very sweet spot. When you look at large markets like US, like China, like Japan, like Europe, like these are erstwhile the largest, and why erstwhile? Even today, they are the large markets, and you see the growth, you see where the economy is right now placed. The global economy today is in a very challenging place.
Correct.
Right? So US currently is going through a interest rate cut scenario. Why they're cutting interest rates? Because they want to bring growth back. Some people are afraid that is US going into a recession. So many financial markets are worried because if it goes, then you know how others are going to be involved in it.
Yeah.
So Japan, after 8 years of negative interest rates, they are poised to raise interest rates. They are raising interest rates. China, you know how much turmoil China is going through. Some data has come recently from European, some automotive sales and all, they were expecting a 2% plus profit growth. They have got a 8 to 10% negative growth in that. So even Europe numbers are not looking good. So you look at India in this perspective now. What is happening to India? India is the fastest growing economy, and not only in this year, for the next 3, 4, 5 years, India is going to grow at a very, very high speed. In fact, they say this decade, not only this decade belongs to India, it is like the next 20, 30 years belong to India.
Yeah.
And it's not only us coming and telling it. You see the reports from World Bank, which has come out a month earlier, where they revised the forecast of Indian GDP growth from 6.6 to 7. You look at IMF projections from 6.8 to again 7%. Last year India grew at 8.2%, again unparalleled in the entire global context of major economies. And it's not that India is growing just like that. There are certain things which is happening in India which is actually contributing to this growth. And if you break down it's basically 4 Ds. You have democratization, right? You have digitalization, you have demographic dividend, and you have diversification. So there are so many things at play at one point in time. In fact, I can't put more emphasis on the fact that how your demographics for India is playing its role. You see, every economy goes into this spurge of growth when their working age, the young age population is actually at its peak, when the major part of the population is within this working age thing. Japan went through after the World War II, US went through from 80s to 2000, China went through from 1990s to basically mid 2010 types. We are currently in that phase, and it's going to last for next 30 odd years. So you know what, 68% of our population is young age population.
Wow.
And by 2030, this is the stats that 25% of the entire global workforce is going to come from India. Because the other part of the world is slowing down. They are aging and we are getting younger. So where will the growth be? Obviously we are producing, we are consuming, we are doing like actually contributing to the GDP growth. This is one part of it. The second part of it, you look at the growth of digital economy for India. It is basically, we say it's a case study in the world that with a country of 140 crore people right now, how digital has taken over. Today, in terms of telecom subscriber, we are the highest in the world. 125 crore people. In terms of internet users, we are the second highest in the world. In terms of data consumption, we are the cheapest. In terms of usage of data, we have overtaken US, China and everybody. In digital payments, we are like more than combined of US, China and Europe. This is the power of digital economy. Our GDP growth is growing at X%, digital economy is growing at 2.5x of that. So that is how digital, and
Wow.
what happens when digital economy grows, you have access to all these people and you are actually seeing connectivity, global connectivity, domestic connectivity, people coming together, trade and commerce is benefiting because of that, and all that thing, all the ingredients, like, I'm fond of cooking, and you say when the ingredients are at play, you actually make a very nice dish. So all that thing is happening, and then at the base of it, you have, per capita income is rising, the middle class income, and there is one thing, the 12 crore Indians are absolutely in the top. So we say 120 million people in the very ultra HNI, and this ultra HNI is actually going to double in next 7-8 years. So they've become 200 million from 120 million. So how the burgeoning, wealth and also the burgeoning middle class all contributing to that, and then you don't get such companies also. So we took out this data that out of the Nifty 500 companies, if you look at last 10 years, 54% of the companies, literally half of the entire index, has been a multi-bagger, which has given more than 10x returns over a 5-year rolling period. So where will you get this growth?
Definitely. So guys, investors, viewers who are all watching this show, now you have facts, you have statistics, which is very clear in front of you. It's not a euphoria. It's not at all a euphoria. It's substantiated with lot of statements, whether it is demography, whether it is digitization, whether it is diversification. How Indrani has talked about what does World Bank and IMF statistics says. They say that India is one of the fastest growing economy in the world, growing at 7%, and at the same time, the demographic dividend is playing a role, the working population is coming, the consumption is increasing in the world, in India specifically, and how is the entire world looking forward to India to come, to invest, to be the part of this growth trajectory and to reap the maximum dividends. And mind you, this is not something which is very exceptionally new to this country. All the countries at different phases, has gone through this phase. And primarily, it's the time for India to reap the best out of this given phase. And that's what we are doing right now. I mean, I'm sure Indrani would substantiate even with the kind of investments taking place on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, on a yearly basis. And because of this, I'll be just jumping to the next question, which will be very, very important for you investors at large. Ma'am, there is a 3-letter word which is gaining a lot of traction, and that is SIP. Guys, and as a distributor, I find this question through everyone's mouth, that why aren't you doing SIPs? Or I mean, why are you doing RDs and ODs? So in that case, what is an SIP? In a very, very simplistic fashion, I just want you to tell to the viewers, to the advice, to the people all around, that what is an SIP and what is SIP bringing onto their table if they are actually investing into this buzzword known as SIP, which is getting so much traction now.
Yeah. So it's very important as well as very, very topical, because SIP is something which is like a new gold mine for Indians.
Yeah.
People are actually getting what they couldn't even dream of earlier. I will give you a small example. You talked about RD. So when I got married, I thought myself that I should be a little smarter than my parents.
Yeah.
So I will join a job and immediately I will start investing. So I went to the bank, and instead of doing an FD, I did an RD. I thought, this is very smart, because why will I wait till I accumulate a particular amount and then make a FD?
Yeah.
Let me do from year one. I'm a smart investor, and I started doing an RD. RD went on and on and on. Then I wanted to buy a handicap. That time there was a handicap, and the handicap price was some 50 odd grands and all. And to my dismay, I saw that my handicap money through the RD, which I thought is going to be enough, it was falling short because the RD was not getting returns, and it was like moving in a very, very slow manner. And then I realized, God, this RD is not working out. And by that time I had joined mutual fund industry. This is like early 2000s.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I am in an industry where I can make my money grow. Why the hell am I doing an RD in the first place? So I said, no, I am a smart investor. Now also I'm smart. So I went and I stopped my RD, and the same money I started putting in the SIP. And then what happened that SIP, I continued. There was this 2000, meltdown also, because this .com burst and all that thing happened. And then there was this, thing came up that I should have a house. And you won't believe this. Through the RD, I could not afford my handicap, but through the SIP that I started, I could give the down payment for my house. So that was such a big thing for me, and I understood after working for 5-6 years in the industry that what a powerful thing SIP is. See, in one word, SIP is basically you are investing little in the market. But what are you basically doing? You are cutting your emotions out.
Yeah.
So it is a very disciplined form of investing. The little amount, you won't even realize that it is going from you, but it is going through the market, ups and downs. Throw in the downs, where I was little fortunate, because after I started investing, market went down. You get actually more units. Like all of us want to go and buy in a sale. Why? Because you want it cheaper. So I was buying it cheaper, and then when the markets finally turned around 2006 and all, and I actually encashed that benefit, and SIP actually makes you do it. The compounding that you see SIP is absolutely amazing and mind-blowing, and trust me, you don't play a part within it, because neither you have a fear that market is falling. In fact, when the market falls, you actually party and celebrate. I'm getting more units, I'm getting more units. And when the market is up, you are actually another joyous time, because your entire portfolio valuation moves up.
Correct.
So it works on the both sides, and it is kind of, for every investor, it is, like I said, it gives you access to a gold mine. You know what? Now, we talked about SIPs. In my time, SIP minimum used to be 1,000 rupees for 6 installments and all. Today, the mutual fund houses have reduced that 1,000 rupees to 500 rupees and 200 rupees. Because in tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities, there are these vendors, these vegetable walas, these kiranas who says that, boss, I can't commit for a monthly amount of 2,000. Or a 3,000, but what I can do, my daily ka 100 rupees I can give you. And thereby they started the daily sips. And probably, at the end of the month, they were thinking 2,000 nahi hoga, but they are doing more. They are doing 3,000, some are doing 4,000, and that is how their wealth is getting built up.
Wow.
And there is so much of, lifestyle changes that SIP is bringing forward through this.
Wow. Imagine even a kirana shop, a vendor person, a person working in an informal sector is basically getting formalized through concept of SIP. What could be a bigger multiplier effect, something which can change the dimension of this country altogether, if even an informal or rag picker who can easily afford 100 rupees SIP is basically participating into the growth of this country. And that is where the power of SIP lies. So I mean, this is directly coming from someone who is managing or who's taking care of the wealth to such a high extent. Ma'am, I'm literally flabbergasted to hear that what SIP is all about and to what demographic it can cater to. It is catering to.
Yeah.
And this is also one of the reasons that why India is going or is having this burgeoning growth.
Do you know SIPs are coming from ritual places?
Please tell us to the viewers and the investors.
So, the most retail parts of India, people sitting in Leh Ladakh, where there is no other connectivity, they are putting in SIPs to their very isolated SBI bank branch and all. People in Andaman Nicobar, again they are cut off. In Lakshadweep, they don't have any physical means, they are doing online.
Wow.
And they are putting in SIP amount. So mutual funds are seeing in far-flung places where there is no way of connectivity, but people are doing their SIPs. In fact, of all the SIP flows that is coming to the industry, 30% of the SIPs are from first-time investors. Retail investors, first-time investors.
My God. So now the territory is not something which for which you can because of which you will be isolated. Now, whether you are sitting in Port Blair, you are sitting in Lakshadweep, you are sitting in Ladakh, or maybe in some part in the northeast, it doesn't matter.
Arunachal Pradesh, Dawang, like people won't know these places, but they are like, coming up in a big way, those cities, through SIPs.
Imagine the fact how people are participating into the growth. They are buying stocks, they are buying mutual funds through SIPs, they are participating into the growth of the economy, they are multiplying their money to this extent. So how can you call it as a euphoria? This is something where the statistics can be told about, that people are contributing so much through different fashions, whether it is the Gen Zs, millennials, old people sitting in Ladakh, Andaman, Port Blair. So it's very clear, and this is coming from an expert's view, that people are contributing their into the growth of this economy by putting their money into small chunks, and through that their money is growing. So this is something which would be an eye-opening thing, because it is substantiated by a lot of facts and figures. Ma'am, I have a very important question, and this question is very important for the investors to know. We have understood what mutual funds are. We have understood why India is growing. We have understood that what are the different people who are participating. What do you think is the role of a fund manager and a distributor into the lives of the people? Because at one point of time, you should understand that as in how we are progressing, the things are also becoming complex. And in that zone of specialization, you have to take, there has to be somebody acting as a Krishna, and somebody, so that you can teach Arjun the right path. So how do you think, what is the role of a fund manager and an advisor or a distributor into the lives of people? People understand what mutual funds are. These days social media platforms are so virulent. Okay,
Absolutely.
you can do this, that, but at the same time the confusion is also increasing at the same time. So how would you try to resolve the queries of the distributor or of the people at large by, the investors are far more than interested in knowing about this fact, that how can their complexity go down?
Absolutely. So, see, fund managers play a very important and crucial role. See, Indian markets are not something that, you have one or two products, one or two things that you go and buy. Like if you have to buy a fixed deposit, you will not use your brain. Your bank is suggesting and your bank is there. So you go and put a fixed deposit. But when you come into a mutual fund foray, you see there are so many funds, so many schemes, so many types, There is global, there is domestic, there is active, there is passive, there is thematic, sectoral, ELSS.
Wow.
So there is so many of them, which today if you were to think and do it on your own, you will probably fail at this. Because what will I do as an individual if I don't go with a fund manager? I want to participate in capital markets. What I'll do, I will start identifying good businesses, good companies. But do I have the skill set? Do I have the time to research? Do I have access to their management?
Correct.
Do I know what that industry is all about? So there are so many questions, so many question marks, that can I fulfill? Is it my main business? Then fine, I think I'm good enough. But if I'm working something else, and if I want it as my investment, then I need somebody who's a thorough professional.
Right.
I need somebody who has the adequate expertise, who is well trained into it, who does the research, who has the professional expertise to manage these funds and analyze.
Yes.
The second part of it is even more important. Understanding where the risk lies. See, I may find this company to be good, I have researched, I have understood, but I still won't know whether it's the right time, whether the company is going through a particular turmoil or not, because whatever appears, all that glitters is not gold, we all know. So where is the risk matrix? Who understands this? A fund manager, because he goes through a process-driven approach, he can understand that where the risk lies. And risk mitigation is the number one step for your wealth creation. So you cannot do your risk mitigation by yourself. You need a professional hand. Plus, there are so many nuances that come with investment, the compliance, the portfolio management. What do you do in that? How do you define sectors? How do you understand the economics of it? What's the macro environment is all about? How the earnings growth is saying? So all these things are important to understand before you take on your decision. So there, the fund manager plays a very important role in this. But apart from fund managers, I think there is a bigger role for the distributors, because in my parlance, I look at distributors as doctors. Because what doctors do, they basically prescribe you some medications for your benefit, right? You are dealing with something, doctor wants you to get that benefit out of some whatever ailment you're having. A distributor's objective is that only, not that there is an ailment, but distributor wants you to benefit from the options available in the market. And how would you choose? Even choosing a fund manager is not easy by a person. Like, how do I know which fund manager is good, which fund manager is doing a good job or not? It's a distributor who helps us understand that where my goals lie, and with that goal, what sort of funds I should take. Those funds may have 50 fund managers. Within that 50, who are those top 3-5 fund managers where he would advise us or entrust us our money to get into that, and thereby help us to compound our earnings. And not only that, distributors also play in us being sticking to our goal. So many times, we are investing and we think, okay, my goal is to buy a house and or whatever, and I park my or I build my funds accordingly.
Correct.
But then something comes up, I see a very fancy car, this is the age of SUVs and all, and and my neighbor also having it, and there is so much of conversations happening, and I need to get that car. So what will I do? Acha, where is the money? Acha, this portfolio has gone very well, right? So I'll call up my distributor, I'll say that, take this money and buy that car and all. But the distributor that time will remind me that, look, you buy the car, let's see where are the other finances from. This is for your, ultimate goal of buying a house. Let's not touch this.
Correct.
So this long-term wealth creation will not be possible if distributors are not around.
My God. So I think viewers and investors, when you're looking out for a very specialized doctor to cure your treatment, to do the treatment for you, and you go to one of the most specialized hospitals, I hope you've understood what financial doctors are and to what extent they are adding value to your portfolios. The fund managers are literally playing a very important role, day in and day out, they're churning out. I understand it's their job, but more important, what kind of value addition they are doing by multiplying your money to a great extent and by bringing so much specialization between the source and the destination. This is an actual role of a very good fund manager, which they are so performing their role. So, ma'am, Indrani, in fact, by giving answers to all these questions, I'm sure you might have helped lot of viewers who are there available, who are watching to this show, in answering to their queries, in resolving their dilemmas, and bringing them more aggressively into the financial world. And to this, we'll close this show. Thank you so much for coming over to our show, ma'am. It's indeed a pleasure, a delight for MoneyTree Partners today to host you and to answer you, where you have answered all these questions, their queries, and helping out at large to a lot of viewers who are basically viewing this show, ma'am. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much, Siddharth, and I'm really happy and glad that the conversation, will be of some use for the viewers. Thank you so much.
Indeed a pleasure, ma'am.